This is the new Honda Civic Type R. This has been out a year now, and this is quite a big departure from the Type Rs before. So rather than a naturally aspirated, VTEC engine, it's a 2-litre VTEC engine, but it's turbocharged. So rather than 200 horsepower, you've got 306. I can tell you from having lived with this car for the last week that there's just so much performance all of the time. So second gear at 20 miles an hour, it does 20 to 60 in 4 seconds. 4 seconds. And about a second of that is waiting for the turbo to wake up. So in reality, it does 20 to 60 in something like 3 seconds. That's crazy. And the best 0 to 60 I've got so far is 6.22. That was with 2 passengers on board, so that's about 150 kilos extra weight. Speaking of 0 to 60, there's a button here called Plus R mode, and what that does is it stiffens up the dampers by about 30% and changes the map on the engine, so the turbo, the power comes in. It's much more vicious. Okay, so I'm at 20 miles an hour. I'm going to put it in Plus R mode, which is in now. I'll put my foot down now, 20 miles an hour, and I'll tell you how quickly we're going. So now, 30, right. Into the rev limiter at 60. That is so quick. That is crazy. It's a very, very different Type R to the ones before. I don't think the engine sounds actually that nice higher up the rev range, but you don't notice that. You're just hanging on. So you can get a Type R for £29,995, good value. But this is the Type R GT, so it's got a few extra bits of kit. But mechanically it's still the same. You still get the same seats, you still get the same diff, tyres, engine, etc. And this is £32,000. Inside the cabin, it's a really nice place to be. It's still familiar Civic, buttons are still the same, the dials are still pretty similar, but it's just got little details that let you know you're in a Civic Type R. So the gear lever, for example, it's a metallic, almost like golf ball kind of shifter that starts to warm up when the gearbox warms up, which is quite a nice little touch. It's freezing cold when you first get in it, but then warms up. Got a little Type R plaque. Steering wheel's slightly different. You've got a little red marker at the top. The seats are gorgeous. They've got so much bolstering on the side and on the base of the seat. You're not going anywhere, even if the car starts to... Well, just think, if this car can get around the Nürburgring in 7 minutes and 50 seconds, you need seats that are going to keep you in place. These do exactly that. I can completely see how you could take this to a track day and just focus on driving. There's nothing worse than a seat that doesn't support you, because then you can't focus on what you're doing. To drive, compared to a normal Civic, it can be a very similar experience. If you keep it off boost, you don't really notice. There's a slightly firmer ride and the seats are a bit harder, but everything is still normal Civic. It drives like a completely normal car. It's only then when you put your foot down that you really know that you're in something very different. The suspension is firmer, I'm not going to deny it, but it's got there's a real quality to the way the dampers have been set up. So it's still slightly choppy, but it's the harshest parts of the bump, the kind of really harsh, like pounding things that I'd expect to come through, just been smoothed off. The steering is heavier than a normal Civic, it's more accurate as well. And then in Plus R mode, again, it gets slightly faster and slightly heavier again. One of the biggest differences, I think, between this and the previous Type R, the FN2, is just how much front end grip it's got. So in that car, you could always, even in the dry, as well as the wet, you could start to feel the front end push. Whereas in this, there's just so much front end grip, way more than I expected. It just points and goes. It's been an interesting car to live with in some ways, because I can't quite gauge what people think of it. I think some people look at it and think they see the spoiler and the bodywork and think that maybe I've modified it, or that it's like, as in I'm someone who's just gone, oh yeah, buy a body kit off the internet, that'll look great. I think what it boils down to is the essence of a hot hatch is that it's a normal car with extra performance, and this is just a perfect example of a hot hatch. It's got so much performance, and yet there's very little compromise. You've still got big boot, it's still comfortable, you can still carry 4 people, it's got sat nav, it's got a decent stereo. It's just a well-spec Civic, but there's no sacrifice. I think what's fun and quite exciting is seeing how the different manufacturers are going about the whole hot hatch concept in different ways. So this is front wheel drive with a turbocharged engine. Renault have gone front wheel drive with a turbocharged engine. VW's got the Golf R, which is all wheel drive. Then they've got the GTI, which is front wheel drive. Mercedes have got all wheel drive. Ford have got all wheel drive. It's just really fun seeing how they're all going after speed, balanced with all the practicality you'd want in a hatchback, but they're just going about it in different ways.